Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Bear Brown announces early birth of third child. Alaskan bush people star Bear Brown has announced that his third baby boy has arrived. However, the baby was born early, which came as a surprise to Bear and his wife Raven. This is not new, as the couple's other two babies were also born early. With that said, there is some great news concerning the new baby. Here is what Bear and Raven had to say about their newest baby boy. Bear Brown announces birth of baby boy. Bear Brown posted on his Instagram stories that his baby boy had been born. However, he also said the boy was born early, which is distressing for anyone who follows Bear and Raven's family, as it has built over the years. Both River and Cove were born prematurely. For River, he was kept in the hospital as he was born very early, but he ended up growing into a healthy young boy. Cove also arrived early, and he ended up on oxygen, while Raven had to stay in the hospital for almost a week after that birth. Raven was also on bed rest for months before delivering Cove. The sad thing is that Raven and Bear broke up around that time. A lot of what Raven had to do after the tough pregnancy, she had to do alone. That is not the case this time. Bear is with her and has been by her side through this pregnancy. Bear posted a photo of him holding his new baby son, as Raven looked at them. Bear also wrote, "Baby boy is here, pictures and whatnot to come. He couldn't wait one more day for his scheduled C-section lol. Born August 20, 2024. Raven Brown announces no NICU for third baby. The good news is that the baby was born early, but there are no health concerns this time. River had his hospital stay and Cove was on oxygen. However, when it comes to the new baby, Raven shared on her Instagram stories that this is not the case this time. No NICU this time, baby boy is doing amazing, she wrote. Cove's birth was scary, both because of the pain and suffering that Raven was going through at the time, but also when he was born early and ended up needing the NICU. It is the reason they were in Texas, since the Washington hospitals are not up to par concerning the NICU needed for problematic births. The morning sun broke over the jagged peaks of the Alaskan wilderness, casting a golden hue on the endless expanse of rugged trees and untouched snow. It was a day like any other for Bear Brown, one of the Alaskan bush people, but beneath the familiar calm of the wilderness, a storm of emotion brewed. The family was in for an unexpected surprise, and Bear, a man molded by the rough embrace of the wild, found himself navigating uncharted territory. The cabin was silent except for the crackle of the wood stove, which held the chill of the northern air at bay. The walls were lined with memories, old pictures of hunts, fishing expeditions, and moments when the Brown family had defied the odds, living off the grid in one of the last great frontiers. But today the focus wasn't on survival or self-sufficiency, it was on something more fragile, more intimate: family. Bear paced the creaking floorboards, his heart pounding like the thrum of a distant waterfall. His hands, usually so steady when wielding an axe or navigating the dense forests, now fumbled nervously. This wasn't about a bear hunt, a looming storm, or even the grueling demands of life in the bush. This was about life itself, arriving sooner than expected. Amid the solitude of the wilderness, Bear's mind was in a whirl. He had always prided himself on being a warrior of the wild, a man who could weather any storm, no matter how fierce. But nothing could have prepared him for the early arrival of his third child. Just weeks ago, they had expected the baby to arrive later in the season. The family had been preparing, the makeshift crib carved from reclaimed wood, the tiny clothes hanging on a line outside the cabin, dancing in the crisp breeze. They had dreamed of introducing their child to the world as the snow melted and the wildflowers painted the valley in color. But fate, much like the wilderness, is untamed and unpredictable. Raven, Bear's wife, lay in their humble bed, her face radiant despite the early morning shadows. Her breathing was rhythmic, almost mirroring the wind outside. It was a stark contrast to the fierce woman who had embraced life in the wild alongside Bear, proving she was as much a force of nature as the land they lived on. She looked up at him, her eyes a mixture of exhaustion and joy, as they both realized that their new adventure was already underway. Bear kneeled by her side, his rough hands gently brushing a strand of hair away from her face. "He's early," Raven whispered, a soft laugh bubbling up despite the moment's gravity. Bear smiled, his eyes glistening with emotion rarely seen in a man so stoic and grounded. Guess he's already showing us he's a true Brown, eager to take on the world. The birth itself was a wild dance between nature and the raw determination that defined the family. Without a nearby hospital, modern conveniences, or even a doctor on hand, the couple relied on their instincts and the knowledge passed down through generations of bush living. They were surrounded by the quiet wisdom of nature, the howl of a distant wolf, the hoot of an owl somewhere deep in the trees, and the whisper of the wind. It was as if the land itself was holding its breath, waiting for the newest Brown to make his entrance. Time became a blur, a series of moments connected by hope, love, and sheer willpower. Outside, the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the clearing in front of the cabin. The day was giving way to night, yet inside, a new dawn was breaking. Finally, after what felt like hours suspended in a fragile bubble of anticipation, the silence of the cabin was pierced by the tiny cry of a newborn. It was a sound more precious than the songs of the birds at dawn or the rush of a river in spring. In that instant, the world narrowed to the small bundle in Raven's arms, a baby boy, his eyes squinting against the dim light as he took his first breaths. Bear leaned in close, the lines of his face softening as he gazed at his son. The child's tiny fingers curled instinctively around his father's rough, calloused hand. It was a contrast that spoke volumes, a life just beginning, held by a man who had spent his own life forging a path in one of the harshest environments imaginable. The connection between them was immediate, as if the wild spirit that ran through Bear's veins had been passed on in that single touch. "He's perfect," Raven murmured, her voice laced with awe and relief. Bear nodded, lost in the moment. "He's a fighter, just like his parents. He'll be running these woods before we know it." The cabin filled with an overwhelming sense of love and unity. For all the challenges the Browns had faced, from the biting cold winters to the isolation that could break even the toughest souls, this moment was a reminder of why they chose this life. It wasn't just about surviving, it was about living, about family, about creating something beautiful in a world that often seemed indifferent. As the night deepened, Bear sat by the window, cradling his son, who was swaddled in a blanket. The stars above twinkled like diamonds scattered across the vast, endless sky. They were the same stars that had guided explorers, hunters, and wanderers for millennia. Those who, like Bear, had sought solace in the untamed beauty of the wild. He looked down at his son's sleeping face, already etched with a fierce determination. "Welcome to the world, little man," Bear whispered, his voice rough yet tender. "It's a big wild place out there, but we'll show you the way." In the days to come, life would continue in the bush. The snow would melt, the rivers would swell, and the cycle of survival would press on. But for now, in the quiet sanctuary of their cabin, a new chapter was beginning. The wilderness had given them many gifts, strength, resilience, and a bond that could weather any storm. But this tiny life, was the greatest gift of all. And so, in the stillness of the Alaskan night, the Browns celebrated not just the birth of a child, but the enduring spirit of family. They were bound by love, by the land, and by the unbreakable will to live fully, no matter the challenges that lay ahead. In this wild, unpredictable world, Bear Brown knew one thing for certain: his family was his true north, guiding him through every trial, every joy, and every adventure that life had to offer. And now, with the early arrival of their third child, the journey had only just begun.